Bulking and cutting is total bullshit. You don't really need it and it's not very effective. And so in this video I'm going to show with you how to actually build crazy fast muscle mass while at the same time losing fat or staying lean if you're already lean. It's totally possible, bro. I've done it. I literally gained about 10 kilograms of lean muscle mass in about 1 year by staying at about 8% body fat. So I know it's possible, and it's mainly about 3 main steps that I'm going to show with you obviously in this video. Now, first things first, I want to clear why is bulking and cutting actually bullshit. Now, the thing that most people tell you is that in order to build muscle mass, you need to also be adding fat, right? You need to get into a caloric surplus. That means eat more calories that you need and then actually build muscle mass along fat. But what these people don't realize is that they are talking about the wrong kind of caloric surplus, and actually also that building muscle mass has nothing to do with gaining fat. They literally have nothing in common, bro. You don't add muscles by adding fat, and you also don't add fat by adding muscles. And so if you want to gain muscle mass, you can do that by losing fat. It's totally possible, bro. And so what many people talk about is this caloric surplus. So many people tell you that you need to eat more calories than you need. But what these people don't realize is that to build muscles, you obviously need more calories than you would normally need if you were just sitting on a couch. So in that sense, you need a caloric surplus, right? Because you are exercising, so you're burning more calories, and to restore your muscles and make them grow, your body needs more calories than, let's say, if you were not exercising at all. But at the same time, you don't need to be eating more than that. So many people get this wrong, and I really want to drill this point down. Many people, know how much they need, right? When they exercise, there are all those calculator apps that tell you, okay, when you exercise 5 times a week to build muscles, you need so many calories. And then those people add another 100 to 300 calories on top of that. And that's when they start to actually gain fat, without any reason. Because at the end of the day, as said, gaining fat does not mean that you are actually adding muscles. And that's a big problem of bulking, because many people, see that they're getting heavier on the scale, but they do not really know if they're actually adding muscles or just fat, because they're getting both at the same time. And so I literally had a friend the other day who came to me quite disappointed. I remember he was really hyped this winter because he was doing a big, bulk. He was eating a shitloads of calories. He literally gained 15 kilograms, right, in a few months. And so he was really hyped. Then he cut down for summer, right, as most people do. And he basically told me I pretty much didn't add any fucking muscles. And that's the problem, because adding fat does not mean that you're adding muscles. And at the same time, another problem with bulking is that fat actually makes gaining muscles slower. Why is that, you may be asking yourself? Well, it's very simple, because your fat cells are basically producing estrogen, which is the female sex hormone. And to grow muscles faster, you would actually need more testosterone, which is the male sex hormone. And so when you are fatter, especially if you have fat around your belly and your organs, you are going to have lower testosterone levels, and that means that you're going to gain muscles slower. And that's a big problem, obviously, if you want to maximize your gains. And then another problem is that many people, to bulk, basically, to eat more calories, they reduce the quality of the food they eat. Because they feel like overwhelmed about the amount of calories they have to eat, they basically start eating more bullshit food, right? And that's a big problem, because that fucks up your hormones, and it's not really healthy. And to build a good physique, that for the long term, right, you need the highest quality food. But we will get to that in just a second. So basically, the take-home message here is that you don't need to be adding fat to basically gain muscles, and gaining fat is actually making your gains slower, harder to track, and it's harder to see if you're actually gaining muscle. So in my opinion, bulking is total bullshit. And if you were to see the bodybuilders like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and so when they were in their prime phase, they were always like under 15% body fat, right? They were not at 3% like when they were doing their competitions, obviously, right? That's not sustainable in the long term. But they were never like fat or like becoming like what many people say is a dirty bulk, where you basically add fat. You don't really need to add fat to gain muscles. Now, enough for that. How do you actually stay lean and build muscle mass really quickly? Well, it's mainly about three main things. And the first factor is exercise. I know, you might be thinking to yourself, I already know about this, but listen out, because I'm sure that you have never thought about exercise the way I'm going to show with you in just a second. So many people just think that exercise is kind of like a magic, right? You go to the gym and somehow you build muscles. But what I realized some time ago is that when you actually approach exercise as if you were stimulating your body to do what you want, that's when you can actually predict the highest possible returns, the most gains basically. And so what do I mean by that? What we're doing when we're exercising is telling our body that it needs to adapt to our new kind of lifestyle. So your body, you have to understand this, will never build muscles or anything, strength, endurance, whatever, if it doesn't have a good reason to do so. Your body will only do those things, will only create bigger muscles or gain strength or become more endurant or whatever, if it feels like it has to, because you're pushing its limits. And so many people do this wrong, including me in the past, bro. I've done this mistake so often, over and over and over again. We do not stimulate our body correctly. We do not basically tell it all the time, I need more muscles or more strength. And so it doesn't adapt. And that's why many people ask themselves, like, why am I not gaining muscles? Why am I not gaining strength? Well, because you're not stimulating your body in the right way. And how do you actually do that? Well, it's mainly about two things when it comes to muscle gains and also strength gains. First things first is progressive overload. Now, many people do a simple thing. They basically start adding weights, right? At the beginning, they add weights and then they basically stick to a weight or a kind of rep range and set range where they feel comfortable, right? They always keep the same weights for months and months and months. And then they ask themselves, why am I not gaining any muscles? Well, as said, your body will only adapt if it has to, right? Your body at the beginning, it will have to push hard to adapt to the new weights and sets and reps, right? To the new exercises and the new intensity. But once it becomes used to it, why should it be adding any muscles, right? It already has the perfect amount for that amount of weight, of reps and sets. So it literally doesn't have a good reason to be adding muscles. And so if you want to stimulate your body to gain muscles, gain strength or endurance or whatever, you have to overload every single week. You have to be adding intensity in some way. You have to basically tell it, I need those muscles because the intensity of my workout is going up all the time, so I really need it. That's the message you want to give your body. And the second thing that is really important, especially if you want to not lose hours and hours in the gym, and I would say for everyone wanting to build muscles without having to spend 2 to 3 hours a day in the gym, is compound movements. Now, the thing is this, many people follow Arnold Schwarzenegger's example. He was basically, isolating, many different muscles and working them specifically. And therefore he was, training for hours and hours every single day. But the thing that many people don't understand is that it doesn't really make a lot of sense to isolate muscles if you cannot fully follow what Arnold was doing. Like, most people cannot spend like 4 hours a day in the gym, right? You cannot go twice a day in the gym. Your physique is not ready, first of all, and you don't have the time, and probably you don't really want to prioritize the gym so much, right? And so many people follow Arnold's example, but not fully, and that's why they don't get his results. So when you isolate your muscles and really work every single muscle group specifically, you have to pay a lot of attention, because you're going to either stay a shitload of time in the gym, or you're not getting so big and so strong so quickly. And so the solution for everyone wanting to build muscle and actually, not spend hours a day in the gym is compound movements. What are compound movements? Compound movements are exercises that work many different muscles at the same time. For example, for pushing movements, I only do literally 2. So I do dips, which are for lower chest, pretty much the whole chest, and then tricep, not really your shoulders, and then incline bench press, which is more the upper chest, even though it does work the whole chest, triceps and shoulders. Now for lateral delts, I do also, lateral raises, but that's a little, add-on. Now for pull, I literally do another 2 exercises, pull-ups, which are for, your biceps, your back, your lats, and then I do inverted cable rows, like more from down up. So I also have this muscle here, which I don't remember the name exactly, and your whole back engaged. So what I basically am doing is I'm working out my whole body with 4 exercises, and that's the magic of compound movements. Now the other amazing part is that compound movements raise your testosterone because you're using a lot of muscles, and that has been shown to also increase your testosterone levels. That's why when you train legs and do squats, you have the most testosterone, increase, because you're using a lot of muscle. Another bonus fun fact, and the thing is this, when you actually do those compound movements, you're going to be able to add weight consistently over and over and over again with the passing of the weeks. Because it's very simple to just be adding weight on your dips or to be adding weight on the incline bench press. And you also are going to be gaining strength alongside, which I think is a good, added benefit. So 2 things: progressive overload every single week, be adding intensity in some way, reps, sets, weights, reduce resting time, whatever it takes to be increasing intensity. And second thing, use compound movements to your advantage. You don't need to isolate every single fucking muscle. And most people that I see that are really jacked, they don't. They literally don't. They use compound movements, and that's why they grow so quickly. Now, if you ask yourself, how often should I work out? What kind of split do I use? There are 2 main set and rep ranges that I recommend you following. Now, I'm following these ones basically alternating every single month, every single 4 to 5 weeks. I basically change to the other method, and here they basically are. So the first kind of rep and set ranges is more like higher reps, lower sets. So this is what I call the 2-set method. I actually stole this method from a guy called Ian Barsigo. He's a great, crazy calisthenics dude, and it's very simple. It's just about, being in the 10 to 15 rep range. Then you reduce the amount of sets you do, because if you really go max out, and that's what you should do, you should reduce the amount of sets you do. So when you increase intensity, reduce volume. That's another important thing to remember. So just 2 sets for each exercise and a lot of resting time. So between 5 to 7 minutes. That's literally it. You just do 1 day where you do push, you do your incline bench press and your dips. And on pull days, I do my pull-ups and my inverted rows. That's it, bro. And how often do I train that? Every 5 days. So every 5 days, you do another workout. And for the second kind of rep and set ranges, I basically add intensity by increasing the weight, and I reduce the amount of reps. So I'm in the 3 to 8 rep range, and I basically do 3 to 5, normally 4 sets with a little bit less resting time, so normally 5 minutes. And that's it, bro. The same exercises, just adding weight, reducing reps. Here again, every 5 days, I train it again. So as you can see, you're not going to be working out a lot, but you're going to be working out high intensity. You really want to give all you got. When you do those 10 to 15 reps or those 3 to 8 reps, you really want to go max out. You shouldn't be able to do another rep. And don't cap yourself. Really go all you got. Push everything you have. That's really the key, because that's when you really tell your body, I need to adapt. I'm really pushing my limits. I'm really adding intensity, and that's when you will stimulate it in the right way. Now that was it for the first step, exercising. The second thing I do is eating in the right way. Obviously, if you stimulate your body, you have to give it the right building blocks. And a thing that I really like thinking about when I'm thinking about what to eat and how to eat is that I'm building my tempo, right? And so I want to build it with the highest quality blocks and bricks as I can, right? I want to build a great looking, amazing, stable, strong tempo. And you can only do that if you have the highest quality materials. And so what I personally do, that's my philosophy of eating, and I've seen that that has served me a lot, was giving my body the highest quality food possible. What about how much you should eat? What about the exact foods I eat? Well, I tell you a few things. First things first, don't worry too much about how much you eat. Just listen to what your body is telling you. I literally don't count my calories since years. There have been a time where I used to count calories, and it really helped me out a lot, because at the beginning, to get kind of like a feeling of how much is 200 grams of rice or of beef patties, it is helpful, right? It is helpful. But then you really don't need to count your calories. If you listen to your body, right? You eat how much you're hungry. You make sure that you eat enough proteins and kind of like enough calories. You are literally going to thrive. Make sure that you eat at least 1 gram of protein for every single pound of your body mass a day. And for the calories, make sure that you calculate your caloric need, and then you just try to basically stick to it. Now, there are many apps and many calculators online. The one that I used a few years ago was Yazio. You can use whatever you want. It's just the one that I used. Now, once you do that, you eat enough proteins, you eat enough calories, you're literally good to go if you eat a high quality food. There are other things that would need to be addressed, like the macro split or like the exact foods that I recommend you eating. But I already made another video about it, so I'm not going to repeat myself in this one. So if you're interested in going deeper into exactly how I eat and what I eat and when I eat, how much I eat, for building basically crazy muscle mass very quickly while staying lean, I'm going to put a link in the description down below. Now, what about the third pillar? The third thing that will get you crazy gains. Well, this is, I think, the most underrated one. The one that when I ask people what they're doing to achieve their gym gains, they pretty much all lack the third thing, and that is good recovery. What many people don't understand or know but haven't really seen on their own skin yet is that you are not growing in the gym. You are growing while you sleep, while you recover. Your muscle fibers are being torn and are being damaged while you work out. That's the stimuli, right? When you eat, you have enough building blocks, but when you sleep, that's when the workers in your body build the tempo. And if you don't sleep, your workers don't have the ability and the possibility to build up the tempo. So it's kind of like wasting your time in the gym if you're not recovering, right? And I get it, bro. I totally used to underrate sleep, 100%. And I remember this is a story that I always tell people when they ask me, why do you prioritize your sleep so much? Because I literally sleep between 9 and 10 and a half hours every single night. Is that it was, I don't remember, 1.5, 2 years ago, something like that. Probably 1 year, I don't remember exactly. I was at 78 kilograms. I couldn't get past 80. I was training hard. I was eating shit loads of food, bro. Probably 4,000 calories. So that was not a problem. I was working hard, I was eating well and a lot. But I was sleeping about 7.5 hours a night. Now at that time, I discovered Andrew Huberman's podcast. And I watched one of his podcasts where he was talking about sleep. So I thought to myself, well, let's try it out, right? I just tried out sleeping 9 hours a night for 1 month. And I was feeling amazing, bro. I was feeling so great that I didn't want to get back to sleeping 7.5. But what I didn't realize is that I was actually gaining shitloads of muscles by doing that. Within 1 month, I weighed myself. And have a guess how much muscles I had gained in 1 fucking month? 4 kilograms. Literally, I didn't believe it myself. I know this sounds crazy. I didn't believe it myself, bro. You might think to yourself, well, you must have been adding fat. But I was so lean that I knew that it wasn't fat. It was muscles. And it was because I had changed my sleep. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you're going to gain 4 kilograms every month of muscle mass. That's obviously not going to happen. But this experience really showed me that I should be prioritizing my sleep over even exercise. Because even if I exercise perfectly, but I sleep like shit, it's like wasting my time in the gym. And so sleep is so crucial, bro. Sleep is when your body is releasing testosterone, your body is releasing growth hormone, which are crucial for muscle gains. And it's where your body actually is building and growing. So you want to be getting consistent, high quality sleep. How do you know if you're not sleeping enough? Well, it's very simple. There is a simple question you can ask yourself. How do I feel when I wake up in the morning? Personally, I tell you, I want to jump out of bed. I'm literally hyped for the day. I literally want to get out of bed. I'm full of energy. I don't want to get back into bed, even though I know that the first thing I'm gonna do when I get out of my bed is get into my cold shower. I'm still hyped for the day, and that's because I sleep amazingly well. I used to remember when I was sleeping 7.5 hours, it was so fucking hard to get out of bed. It was like a nightmare. I wanted to get back to it, but I remembered I have to go to school, and so I get out and I'm still, tired, and this tiredness gets, dragged throughout the whole day, and I didn't ever feel full of energy, enthusiasm, motivation. That's what you get, alongside crazy muscle gains when you actually sleep amazingly well. So how do you sleep amazingly well? How do you improve your sleep quality? Here again, I made another video breaking it down step by step. So I'm not going to explain or repeat myself here again. What I'm going to do is basically link both of the videos in the description down below. You will have access to them, and you will see them on my left and on my right at the end of this video. So if you're interested in that, bro, if you want to bring your gains to the next level, those two things alongside exercise are crucial, and I highly recommend you to go and check them out and optimize them for crazy muscle gains.